So you are on the Cambridge Power Platform user group session. We have had 4 amazing speakers in our lineup today. And the last but not least of these is Dharani, who I hope is on the call. Absolutely delighted to have another user group lead on the call to come and give us some insight. And really looking forward to this ALM session, which really stood out for me in the call for speakers as a session that really is important.
Yeah, once again, thanks a lot, Sharon, for having me here and providing me this wonderful opportunity. Thanks everyone for joining here today. Today, I'm going to talk about the ALM for Power Platform. Before I talk about the ALM, let me quickly give a small introduction about myself. Myself, Dharanidharan Balasubramaniam. People call me Dharani. I do have like 8 years of experience into Dynamics 365 CE and 2+ years of experience into Power Platform. I'm currently working as a computer scientist with Adobe, and I'm leading the Tamil Nadu and Malaysia Dynamics 365 and Power Platform user group. And also I'm a part of Asian's business applications and the Power Platform user group. On the screen, I'm flashing all my contact details. I'm like my LinkedIn, blog, and Twitter. After the event, if you have any queries, you can reach out to me personally. I'll be very happy and glad to assist you on your queries. Also in the session, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm always happy and glad to assist you on your queries. And here is the quick agenda for today's session. First, let's see what is ALM, why the ALM is so important, and let's see how we can leverage the ALM for the Power Platform. And we'll quickly run into one system demo, and then finally we'll see the summary and the question and answer session. So before getting into an ALM for Power Platform, let's take some time and understand what is this ALM and why this ALM is so important in the software development process. See, if you ask me what is ALM, ALM is the lifecycle management of application, which includes governance, development, and the maintenance. And ALM is really if you ask me, it is really an umbrella term that covers several different disciplines that were traditionally considered separate, including the project management, requirements management, development, testing, quality assurance, the customer support, and IT service delivery. So all those things, it's an umbrella term for everything they have collectively. They have given a name as an ALM. ALM tools provides a standardized system for communication and the collaboration between the software development teams and the related departments, such as the test and operations. And also these tools can automate the process of software development and the delivery. So to achieve the software, the development lifecycle, the ALM is so important actually. If you ask me what are the key areas of ALM, governance, application development, and maintenance, these are the main key areas of development. What all the things that covers inside the governance? It's like requirement gathering, resource management, data security, user access, change tracking, review, audit, deployment control, rollback. All those things cover under the governance process. And the application development, as you guys know, identifying the current problems, planning, designing, building, and testing the application. This is all about the application development. And maintenance includes like the deployment of the app and the maintenance of the optional and the dependent technologies. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, this ALM is a typical life cycle development model, cyclic model. Like if you see the diagram, it's like a plan and track, and then develop, build and test, deploy, again will operate this and monitor and learn. Again, it's like the cyclic process actually. So that's what we say, this application lifecycle is an cyclical software development process that involves all these areas like plan and track, develop, build and test, deploy, operate, monitor, and learn from discovery. All this, it's a completely typically a cyclical software development process. If you ask me why this ALM is so important, here's the answer. Like in the past, before the Agile Manifesto was published, and before the organization realized that their previous waterfall approach to the software development was inefficient and prone to scrum creep, the cost overruns and missed deadlines, each of these disciplines that made up the overall software process completely separate actually. Once the organization started one point of time, all the organization they started realizing like how much more efficient they can be having the integrated teams that collaboratively define the requirements, plan the releases and the sprints, test the product during the development, and deploy the latest update in seamless way. The old separate process did not make sense at all. This ALM is basically the fusing together of the disciplines concerned with all the aspects of the software delivery process. Instead, for example, if a business analyst working in a vacuum to define the vision and the requirements, and he will hand off the design to the developer, and the developer, once he completes the development, he will handing off the code to the testers, and once the testing is done, and the testers will hand off the product to the IT support team to deploy and maintain. Now you have a single ALM process spanning all these elements, continuously delivering the new features every certain weeks in a certain weeks period of time. With this ALM process, we are efficiently delivering the softwares to the end users. This is the reason the ALM is so important. If you see here, the shorter development cycles and also the faster innovation is there, and reduced deployment failures, rollbacks, and time to recover. And as I mentioned, by using this ALM process, we are improving the communication between the development team and the support team, and also it increases the efficiency, and also it is reducing the cost and the IT headcount. So all those things are making to think as this ALM is so important in our day-to-day life now. And also now let's take a moment and see how we can define the ALM for the especially for the Power Platform. The Power Platform in the sense mainly for the Power Apps, Power Automate, and also for the Dataverse. Here it is written as a common data service. Now the Microsoft has renamed the CDS as Microsoft Dataverse. So for this, what are the things? The main thing required is like the solution. For in order to implement the ALM in the Power Platform area, the main thing which we required is the solution, because these solutions are the main mechanism for implementing the ALM process. Because over the solution only we are able to pick all the components, and we are going to distribute the components from one environment to another environment through this export and import. This is the solution represents something that you can potentially customize. Anything that can be included in a solution is a component. So for example, you have the sitemap, and you will have the canvas app, model driven app, entities, fields, charts, plugins, custom assemblies, lots of things will be there. Each and everything is called as components, and you will add all these components into one solution, and we will move the solution from one environment to other environment. This is how typically we are going to achieve the ALM for the Power Platform. And as I mentioned, this is not a CDS, it's like a Dataverse. It stores all the artifacts, including the solutions. All this data and the components and the solution, everything will be stored in the Microsoft Dataverse. And next, we do need the source control. That will be the source of truth for storing and collaborating on your components. What are the components you have in your system, like sitemaps, apps, entities, fields, canvas app, model driven apps, charts, plugins, dashboard, whatever the component should be. While exporting the solution, you need to unpack those solution, and you need to have a copy of those components into your source control. So that is like your source of truth for holding all the components. If something went wrong, you will be able to pick this up from the source control, and you will be able to quickly pack it as a solution, and you can deploy those solutions to the other instance. If something goes wrong to the dev or the test environment, you can easily bring back the instance if you are having all this copy into your source control. And also it's not only for that, but and also if something went wrong, you will be able to keep a track of it. You can go to the view history, and you can track it where it went wrong, and whenever the rollback is required, easily you will be able to do it if it is there in the source control. And next, we'll understand a bit about the solutions in the Microsoft Dataverse, and how we are going to achieve our ALM for the Power Platform using the solution. There are two main paths you can use when working with the solutions in source control. One is like you can export the unmanaged solution and place it as an unpacked in the source control system. The build process imports the packed solution as an unmanaged into one temporary build environment, which is nothing but it is also one of the sandbox environment. Then export the solution as a managed and store it as a build artifact in your source control system. This is one way of doing it. And the other way how you can do is like you can export the solution as an unmanaged and also export the solution as unmanaged. Then place both in the source control system, although this method does not require the build environment. In the previous method, we have used the one build environment, sandbox environment for building this, but whereas in this, it is not required. It does not require running the 2 copies of all the components, like one copy of all unmanaged components from the unmanaged solution and one copy of all the managed components from the managed solution. You can export it and you can have it in the artifacts, and you in the release definition, you can pick the solution, and based on the destination instance, you can import the solution into the destination system. So you can use any source control. For today's demo, I'm planning to use the Azure DevOps. So you can use the Git repository, the enterprise kit, Bitbucket, whatever the things you wish to use it, and you will be able to use it. But in order to use the Power Platform build tools, which has been released by Microsoft, you need to use the Azure DevOps. If you are going for the other, the source control like a Git repository, or if you are going for the Bitbucket or any other thing, you need to write your own script for doing all the Power Platform build activities like exporting the solution, unpacking the solution, packing the solution, importing the solution, all those things. You need to write your own script. Whereas if you are using this Azure DevOps, then Microsoft has given a feature to use their Microsoft Power Platform build tools, which has been launched before a year, and it is now open source actually. So you will be able to install it from the marketplace, and you will be able to use it actually. And in my scenario, I'm going to use the Azure DevOps. So I'll be editing the code from the Visual Studio, and I will push it to code repo. From there, my CI activity starts. It will build and it will run all the test cases. As of for today's demo, I'm not going to incorporate any of the test tasks inside my build pipeline. But if you want in your CI pipeline, you can incorporate the test task. And once everything is done, build is completed, you can push the solution into an artifact. It will create an artifact and it will push it over there. Once the build gets succeeded, the release pipeline will trigger and it can pick the solution. Over there, the CD starts, the release task will run, and it will pick the solution from the artifacts and it will deploy to the target environment. And before getting into the solution, but before getting into the solution, let's see what all the challenges I will face with the Power Platform deployment. When I was working as a platform engineer for the Power Platform project, at that time I have faced a few of the key challenges. So all those things I have listed here. Each time, like the solution files were manually exported and imported into target test and deployment process, and multiple deployment for processes followed between the release environment. We cannot easily track who is exporting the solution and importing there, and no track, nothing will be there. And also, not only the solution, all the master data were manually migrated from each environment, exported from the target and the source and imported into the target environment. Everything was completely manual actually. And in order to solve these challenges, I have started working on the deployment automation process, and we have defined the process, and it is not a thumb rule to follow only this process. Each and every organization will have their own problem statement. For our problem statement and our challenges, we have come up with this automation process. In the typically larger organization, if you see, the multiple developers will be working on the single source instance. Like if the developer is assigned with an user story as a first step, what they will do is like they will come up with the design and they will present it to our the solution architect. Based on the solution architect's approval, the developers will start working on the user story, and the developers will do the customization configuration changes in the source environment. Once the user story is completed and the developers, once the developer feels like everything is perfectly done for this particular user story, and what they need to do is like they need to add all their components into the main solution, which has been created for our deployment process. And once the component has been added into the main solution, and we have a PowerShell script actually that has been configured in our Visual Studio, and all the developers need to use that, and they need to export the solution from the source environment, and they need to unpack it, and they need to check in only the necessary components. The check in only the necessary components, what I am trying to say here is like, for example, that solution might have like a 3 or 4 of the canvas app, but as a developer A, I have worked only on the one of the Canvas app, and I'm seeing changes on rest other 3 Canvas app. As a developer A's responsibility, I should check in only my Canvas app changes. I should not check in the other the Canvas app changes which I'm seeing in the Visual Studio, the changes. This is the thumb rule all the developers should follow. They should check in only their necessary components. It is not only for the Power Platform, even in the Dynamics 365 CE also, we are following the same thing. For example, if they are seeing any of the changes, one in the web resources, 4 web resources got changed, and it's a responsibility to check in only the his changes actually. Similarly, for the field creation also, on top of his changes, if he is seeing some other field changes also, he should not bother about all those things. Its main focus is to, for his user story, what all the components he touched, he should be aware of it, and he should check in only the necessary components into the Git repository. So that is the one, the main thumb rule over here, so that all the developers should follow over here. And on top of, if you see about the Power Platform, if you see about the Dataverse, we'll have all the web resources and the custom assemblies. So in order to make sure like all the code, the custom assemblies and the web resources, what all the developers has written, we need to maintain the code quality. And here is the gated check-in comes into the process. And gated check-in is to maintain the code quality and the coding standards. Also with this gated check-in, we'll make sure like it won't break the deployment system. And as I mentioned, like this check-in is the only manual step in this throughout this complete process. Rest other everything is kind of automated actually. Only this is the step this we cannot automate actually, because only that particular developers knows what all the components they have tested or they have touched, they have customized. So that is the reason we have kept this as a manual process here. And this is the environment strategy we are following it. And if you see the default environment will be there, each and every the Dataverse environment will have the data default environment. But by default, every user in your tenant can create and edit apps in the common the Dataverse the default environment. But we strongly recommend that you create an environment for a specific purpose and grant the appropriate roles and privileges only to those people who need them. For example, if you need a dev environment, then create a dev environment and give access to all the developers over there. And in our case, this development environment is the true source for all our customization and the configuration changes. In a SIT environment, where we will test all the functionality against the different types of data by the internal test users. And UAT, like where we test all the functionality against the different types of data by our business users. And finally, we'll have the production environment. Some of the org will have the pre-prod environment in order to make the release is going smoother. So they will release it into one pre-prod environment and they will verify and they will move the solutions to the prod environment. But in our scenario, we don't have the pre-prod, and we are, once the UAT is completed by approved by the business, and we are directly deploying the changes into one production environment. And this is the thing which we are following for the master data. For the master data also, we have similarly, we have kind of automated this process actually. So how we have automated the process is like once the developer completes the user story, he need to generate the schema.xml file and he need to place it into the Azure DevOps Git repository page. And so that if any commit happen to that particular folder path, automatically the build definition and it will trigger and it will connect to the source environment and it will export the data and it will give you the data.zip file. And this data.zip file will be pushed to the artifacts repository. Once the build gets succeeded, the release will trigger and it will pick the zip file and it will import that the data files into a target CRM. Mainly where this works is like in the Power Apps portal, all our data will be like a master data, like web templates, page templates, web page, all these data are the master data. So once you move all the customization changes, then you can kind of automate this way with using this actually. And before getting into this, one more thing I missed to explain here, the complete process. As I mentioned here, once the developer check-ins in the code, and we do have a build definition here, and in the build build definition in the later demo. I will explain what all the things are there. In here, mainly what we are doing is like we are building the solution, and once the solution gets built and we are packing that into and what all the components they are checking in, right? So we are picking that and we are packing that into one solution and we are pushing it to artifacts, and from the artifacts the release definition, and it will pick and it will deploy to the QA. The testers will validate here, and if they give the sign off, and it would be promoted to UAT. And similarly, if the product owner or the business user gives a sign off, and the same will be promoted to the production environment. So this is the typical the overall the architecture diagram of the process which we have defined. And here are some of the best practices we should follow if you are going to adopt this process. All the source code must be in the source control. For example, the plugin code, the Dataverse will have the plugin code, custom workflows, actions, web resources like HTML, JS files, and all the solution files, master data, security rules, and dashboards. Everything should be there in the source control. And we should check in regularly and make every changes should trigger the commit process. And this commit process should be short, and also it validates the committed component. What I mean here is like a gated check-in in order to make sure what all the custom code the developer has written, it should meet the organization standard. And next we do have the track changes and the rollback as required. By following this best practices, whenever we need to track the changes, easily we'll be able to track it and the rollback as needed. And so these are all the best practices before starting the problem. So we need to follow, these are the mandatory steps which we need to follow actually. And these are the prerequisites which we require. So we can use Visual Studio either 2015, 17 or 2019. And as I mentioned, like, so if you are going to use this Power Platform builder tools, then for sure you need to go with this Azure DevOps. Or if you are going with an Git, then you have the GitHub Actions. You will be able to use the GitHub Actions. And if you are going with a Jenkins or some other pipeline, then you can write your own script and you will be able to achieve it. Then next, we do need the Power Platform environment, the source and the destination environment. Then the PowerShell modules for the main. Why we need this PowerShell modules? It's for mainly the exporting the solution and the solution packager for packing and unpacking it. And this is the Microsoft Power Platform builder tools and the configuration migration tool for generating the schema.xml file for migrating the master data. And this is how I'm maintaining the solutions inside my Visual Studio, like ALM fundamental solution. And here it includes both the Power Platform components and also the Dataverse components. So what all the business logic, all those things, it will go and sit into the ALM fundamentals.common. And if what all the things it is there in the plugins, it will go and sit here. Script, what all the scripts required for the deployments, all those things will be available here. All the JavaScript, rest other things will be part of the solutions. And workflows will have again the custom workflows which is required for it. As I mentioned, like the PowerShell script, and these all the modules will be using it. And this PowerShell scripts are used with the data centers, clouds, virtual machines, servers, and applications to perform a variety of administration tasks. And Dynamics 365 here also it's not an exception actually. This script can be used to export a solution from the source environment. It works with the unmanaged, managed, and patch solution. And execution of the script can be triggered manually, or it can be put into some release pipeline or build pipeline, and from there you will be able to trigger this actually. And if you ask me, this script mainly uses the Microsoft.xrm.data.PowerShell. It is a great module to work with the Dynamics 365. See, it has been implemented by Scene and Kenshiro, and this script will attempt to install the module in case it is missing. So for first in my code, in my PowerShell script, what I have written is like first it will try to check for this module. If it is missing, then it will try to install this module. And don't forget to, so before running this, I will show you the PowerShell script over there. You need to update all your CRM credentials, URL, solution name, all those things. So that is the main mandatory thing actually. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, So don't we need to make sure like all this password, username, on all these credentials, we need to make sure like we are updating it before running. So this have this method called get CRM connection. So this is how we are going to initialize the connection to the CRM. So here we are passing the credentials, and the credentials here we are passing the username and password. And here if you pass the org name, the organization name, and this will establish a connection to our environment. Whatever the environment you are passing here, it will establish a connection to that environment. Next, we do have this export command. So once the connection is established, here you need to pass this connection. The CRM1 is the connection one, and for this export solution, you need to provide the solution name and the solution file path where it should be exported, and whether you need this as a managed or unmanaged. If you leave it empty, then it will consider this as an unmanaged solution, and it will export the unmanaged solution from here. And we do have one property called hyphen managed, and if you put that hyphen managed, then it will consider this as a managed solution, and it will export the managed solution from the source environment. Wherever the instance you are connecting, right, it will export the managed solution from there. So as I mentioned, next we do have the solution packager, and the solution packager, most of you people are aware of it, and it is a tool like that can be reversibly decompose the Dynamics 365 CE, the compressed solution files into multiple XML files as shown in the right hand side. And if you provide this multiple XML files, and it can be easily packed, and it will give it as a zip file. So that's what this extract and the pack commands will do. For the extract commands, if you pass the zip file, it will split into multiple files. For the pack files, if you pass the multiple files folder, and if you give the mapping.xml file, then it will give you the zip file. And we do have this the mapping.xml file. So this is how we map the arguments. Arguments in the sense it has lots of files like web resources, DLLs, all those things. So in the mapping.xml, you should define where it should, at the time of packaging the solution, where it should pick the file, this web resources or this DLLs. So we need to define the path actually. So you can do the folder mapping there, file to file mapping you can do, and file to path mapping you can do. There are lots of variety of ways to define it. There are like 3 to 4 ways of defining the mapping there, and I generally prefer to use the file to file mapping. That would be easy actually. And if you are using the Microsoft Power Platform build tools in your Azure DevOps build and release the definition, you need to make sure like you are creating a connection to the environment. How you are connecting to the environment, you can generally do the 2 ways. So like in order to interact with the Power Platform environment, a connection must be established that enables the various build tools to perform the required actions. There are 2 types of connection available as I mentioned in the screen. One is like the username and password, and the other one is like service principal and the client secret. If you are going with this username and password, it is configured as a generic service connection with the username and password. But we need to make sure one thing what we need to make note of here is like it does not support the multi-factor authentication. Whereas if you go for the service principal and the client secret, and this one uses the service principal based authentication, and also it supports the multi-factor authentication. Always Microsoft suggest and recommend us to use the authentication using this client ID and client secret. So even so it's better to use this client ID and the client secret, the mode of authentication. And now here is the VSTS build definition. So this is how I have created the build definition. And the next here we do have this release definition. In the system demo, I will explain you like how I have created all those things. I will explain you. And here is the demo. Now let me quickly get into the demo. Before getting into the demo, let me take a moment and define which is my source environment and which is my destination environment, all those things. So here is the Power Platform build tools, and here you can see this is the latest version 1.0.3. And if it is not installed in your Azure DevOps, then you can go to this marketplace link, and if you click on this get it for free, and it will connect to this Azure DevOps services. If it is not logged in with your Azure DevOps, it will ask you to first log in with your Azure DevOps, and then if you install, then it will get installed in your machine. And now next for our demo, I'm going to use the two environments, and this is going to be my source environment, and here this is going to be my destination environment. In the source environment, if you see, I have created a solution called ALM solution, and here you will be able to see the components here. So here you'll be able to see the components here. I have added one Power Canvas app and one Power Automate and one other connection reference which is associated with this Power Automate scheme here. And now let's see like how we are going to export the solution and unpack it, and how the developer, what all the steps the developer is going to do. All those things will do it. So before getting into it, but let me quickly add one more Canvas app into it. So now as a developer, like I'll be my user story is to create one Canvas app. So I'm going to connect to the source environment and I'm going to do it here. ALM source is my dev environment. Now I will quickly go to the apps. Like I will quickly create one Canvas app and I will connect to the Dataverse, Microsoft Dataverse. And I will connect to account and I will name this as an account management. Now I will quickly save this one. It's loading. Yeah. So now I will quickly save this one. If I go here and here I can give the name. I will just give the name as a account management and I will click on save. Oh my God. Yeah. So now I will come back to my solution. I will quickly go to my solution. Let it save. In the meanwhile, I will quickly come to the solution, and here is my solution. If you open here I have already added a components like this. It has already the contact management Canvas app, connection reference, and the one cloud flow. Now I'm going to, as a developer, I have completed, considered I got this requirement to create this Canvas app. I have completed it. Now I will go and add this app into the main solution. Since I think it is opened, it is not listing here. Okay, let me quickly create it from here only. I will just save it as. So now it is saving. So once it gets saved here, you will be able to see the app called ALM demo. I will close the screen. So now the developer's requirement is to create this ALM demo as he is completed and he has completed his testing. And once everything is done, he has added into the main solution. Now the next thing is like he need to go to his Visual Studio and he need to. Here we'll have a folder here actually. So here is the Visual Studio folder structure, which I have explained while during the demo. And here is the solution, common plugin script. So the fundamental solution under there, I'm having all my solutions here, and here is the workflows. And in order to do the export solution and unpacking it, and here is my PowerShell script. And here I have kept all the variables, like all my URLs, username, password, the region, what type of authentication I'm going to use it. So all those things I'm having it here. So it's a developer responsibility to come and open this one, and he need to run the PowerShell script actually. So if you see here, I am running this here, and you can invoke this from your the command lines also. You'll be able to do it. And here I'm just running this one. So here it will ask you to provide the solution name. I'm giving the schema name of the solution. So as I mentioned here you can see. So here it is importing the module, the import module, the Microsoft.xrm.data.PowerShell. Once this is done, then we are securing the password and we are creating the credential objects, and we are calling the get CRM connection by passing this credentials, so the region, type, organization, all those things we are passing it here. And once this is done, before exporting the solution, some changes might be unpublished into the source environment. So we need to make sure like we are publishing all the CRM customization changes. So that's the reason we are connecting to the source environment and we are publishing all the changes, and then we are exporting it. Exporting, as I mentioned, see, I'm exporting both unmanaged and managed. And first here, I'm not mentioning the managed property. As I mentioned, if you mention the managed property, then it will consider as a managed solution and it will export it. Once it is done, then I'm using the solution packager.exe and I'm extracting it. For extracting, I'm providing the zip file and the folder where it should extract. So if you see here, so it has connected to the source instance and it has exported both the managed and the unmanaged solution, and it started extracting my solutions into this particular folder. Here you can see it here. Workflow flows are nothing but your Power Automate. It will come in the name of workflows. And here you can see two of your the canvas app here. So if you go to the Visual Studio back, so here if I come to this here, if you see here, if I expand this here, see, these are the three files which got newly added now. So rest other things are existing, this canvas app and all the model driven app. So it's the, as I mentioned, it's a developer's responsibility to check in only his particular the changes. For example, for this ALM, so what all the changes, I will go to this. First, I will go and add this include. First, we need to include this in the project. And if you go and right click and if you do the check-in, then it will show you all these three files and solution.xml. You need to check in. Why? The reason is if you add any new canvas app and the root component type 300 will get added here. So this solution.xml file also you need to check in actually. So here the developer can add the user story. Here he can click on and he can put the user story and he can associate it. So in this change set, so they will be able to see what all the components associated with this particular user story. So here now the commit has been done. So this is the manual step. So the developer need to do, and this is also done now. So that now automatically the build definition and this will trigger and it will build the solution first. So if you go to the pipeline and here you can see the pipeline here. So as soon as my commit has happened, right? See the latest one, the build got triggered actually. So whenever you commit anything to the solution file, I have configured in such a way like the build will trigger. So if you go inside this, let it trigger. So let it build the solution. In the meanwhile, we'll quickly see like what all the things inside this, the build definition. As I mentioned, the first step, you need to do the NuGet restore. So what all the DLs which is required, it will restore it automatically. Then we are making sure like what all the custom assembly solution we are having. So all those things are building successfully fine. And if you want to use the Microsoft Power Platform build tools, and it is always mandatory to use this Power Platform tool installer. It is like kind of a, it will, what this step will do is like it will import or install all the required the PowerShell scripts actually. So it's mandatory that if you are using any of this Microsoft Power Platform build tools like pack solution, unpack, export, imports, it's mandatory that you need to use this as a first step. So it will import, it will install all the PowerShell scripts actually. And then see here, we are defining the path, which path we are giving. So if you go to the repos here, we are having the solution path. As I mentioned, this what the solution packager will do is like if you give this the multiple the XML files in this particular format, it will zip it into one single file. So from here we are defining the path here. So see the source folder of path, and here where the output should go, the output name I have given it as an ALM solution.zip, and here the type of solution I have kept it as a unmanaged. Once the solution gets packed, then I'm pushing this to the artifacts. That's what I'm doing it. Now let's go to the build definition and see whether it got succeeded or not. So now we can see the build definition here. Still it is running. So let it run. In the meanwhile, we'll go to the release definition and we'll see the release. And also in the interest of time, I will show you like how we can create a connection in order to use this build definition. Because if you go to this release definition here, Here it is pretty much simple. So here I have configured which artifact I need to use it, and here I have configured the environment. As of now, for our demo purpose, I just kept only the QA environment, and here I have added the pre-deployment approver. So it will consider myself as a test manager. Whenever anything is needed to get deployed into QA, it will send an approval email to me. I need to approve it so that those changes will get deployed into the QA environment. As I mentioned in the build definition, if you are using any of the Microsoft Power Platform builder tools, it's mandatory that you need to use the Power Platform tool installer. And here what we are doing is like in the release definition, just we are picking the solution which got built in the build definition, and we are importing into the target environment, and we are publishing it. How we are establishing a connection to the import solution? As I mentioned, here you can use the two ways of authentication, the username and password, which has no MFA support, and we have this service principal and client secret, suppose MFA. And this is my trial instance. I don't have the Azure account associated with this. That is the reason I haven't used the client secret concept, but always it's recommended to use this client secret. How you can use this is like, so once you log into the portal.azure.com, you need to go to the app registration, and you need to register your Dataverse environment here, so that you will get the client ID and the client secret. And with that client ID and the client secret, you can establish an access there. So establish a connection to that particular environment, and you will be able to do the operation. Now I will show you like how you can create this the username password connection, the service principal, and this two ways of connection, and I will explain you here. And this is the service connection, and if you click on this here, you will be able to see the generic connection. And here if you click on this, it will ask you to give the environment name and the username password, and you need to give the service connection name. You can define whatever the things you want. I just kept it as an ALM source generic, and you need to make sure like you are checking this checkbox, grant access permission to all these pipelines. So this needs to be done. And next, the one more way is there, like if you click on this, the Power Platform. So here you can see this is the Power Platform connection. If you click on this, see here it will ask your CRM instance URL, the tenant ID, and the application ID is nothing but the client ID, and we do have the client secret. If you register this, register the app. If you do the app registration in the the azure.com, then you will get your tenant ID, and the application ID is nothing but a client ID, and you will get the client secret also. You need to provide the service connection name and the grant access permission to all the pipelines. So this is how I have created a connection. If you see in my release pipeline, in the import solution and the publish customization, I have used this ALM destination, the generic, and here also I have used the ALM destination generic. In the import, what I'm doing is like I'm just establishing a connection here, and I'm just selecting which file I need to import it, and here you need to provide the asynchronous option, so maximum timeout option and all you need to provide it. And here you need to define whether you need to override the unmanaged customization, and after importing the solution, whether you need to activate all the workflows or not. All those things you need to do it here. And this is what this import solution does. And once the solution gets imported into the destination environment, then we are doing the publishing customization. Here it's pretty much simple, like we are establishing to that environment, and this connector will automatically connect to the target environment, and it will do the publish. Now let's go back to the build definition, and let's see whether it got the succeeded or not. Now the build got succeeded. Now we are able to see the build here. Now if you go to this published, and here we should be able to see the solution file which got created. So just loading. So we can see the solution file here. Now let's go to the release definition and see once the build gets succeeded, the release got triggered automatically, and it is approval pending on you, because as I mentioned, I have given my name as an approver for this. So that is the reason it is pending for me. I'm just approving this. So you will get an email notification saying that with the approve and reject button through. So it's not required for the test manager to come and approve here. So they will get an email notification. So in the email notification only they can approve or reject it. Now this release definition got triggered actually. Now let it trigger and run. In the meanwhile, we'll quickly see you. So it is waiting for the agent actually. It will take some couple of minutes. So in the meanwhile, let it run. I will explain you with the previous release definition. So here, if you go here, this has triggered before some time. Before the demo, I just was making sure whether it is working fine or not. Say 6:15, it got triggered in India time. So here you can see here. So it got downloaded the artifacts first. So what are the solution which got created in the build definition, right? First, it will connected to that artifact and it has downloaded the solution. And once this is done, then as I mentioned, it's a mandatory step. You need to include the Power Platform tool installer. See, as I mentioned, it is installing all the PowerShell script which is required. So you can see here, Microsoft.PowerShell.administration.PowerShell, XRM.tooling.package deployment.PowerShell, and Microsoft Power Apps.checker.PowerShell. All those things. It's a required all the PowerShell scripts. This component will connect and install. As I mentioned, then it is picking the solution. It has connected to this particular instance. Here you can see the connected org URL, the org ID, the friendly name, unique ID, all those things you can see it here. And it has picked the solution from the artifacts from this particular folder. See the alm.solution.zip, and it got imported and it has returned the GUID for that particular import. The import got succeeded here. And once the import gets succeeded, as I mentioned, like again, we are connecting to that destination environment, and we are making sure like all the customization changes which we got imported, right? We need to publish it so that only it will reflect. So that's the reason we are publishing this. So here you can see this publish one. It's done. Now this job is done actually. Now let's see how much this has run. So now this has connected and it is importing the solution. Already this 39 seconds got over. So let it run. So it will take like another couple of seconds or minutes to run. So in the meanwhile, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Okay, I don't think we've got any questions in the chat. Has anybody got anything they want to put in here? Or do you want to come off mute and discuss?
So here you can see here the import got succeeded with one warning, and that is fine. So this is the warning, something related to their PowerShell script actually. And now the publish is also done. Now let's go to the destination environment and see whether the solution got, whether we are able to see that in the destination environment the solution or not. So this is the destination environment. Earlier the solution was not there. Now I will quickly refresh this. Now see, we are able to see this ALM solution. Now if you open this one, here it should have 2 of our Canvas app and 1 process and 1 mail. From here the Canvas app won't be visible in the classic interface. No, now let me go to the destination environment here. And I will open the solution from here so that I will be able to see it. So this is the ALM solution. If I open this, here we can see there are 2 of the Canvas app actually, ALM demo and the contact management. And the next we do have this mail connection reference, which is associated with this cloud flow. So this is the demo of this, the complete ALM for this Power Platform. Now let's see this, the quick summary of what we have seen here. It's the greatest awareness and the need for the ALM process. So nothing is the manual here. Only the developer completes the thing. He need to, the check-in is only as necessary changes. That is only the manual thing. Rest other things, everything you can automate it. Moving from dev to QA, QA to UAT, and pre-prod, prod, everything you can automate it. And you can keep all the strong governance you will be having it with this. And also it is much easier to implement, and the general availability of tools and frameworks. So it is not the cost also, it is a free one actually. So anyone can install it with their Azure DevOps and they can use it. And also it don't take much of time to get up and running it. And as I mentioned, like all the manual operations can be done via this automation process. and reduction in the risk, and also it increases the efficiency, quality, and the consistency, and reducing the time to market. And earlier, the developers will be facing problems in committing the components into the Git repository, but once they got committed, once they understood how they need to do it, then it would be easy for them. Typically, all our developers also initially they were facing the problems, and they felt like it is an overwork for them. But once they got understood the importance, and once they realized how it is working, all those things, now they are also happy to adopt, and now they have adopted it happily, and we are following it very smoothly actually. And as I mentioned, this builder tool works for both Canvas app, model-driven app, and the Power Virtual Agents, UI, traditional flows, AI Builder, custom connector, data flows. For all this, you can add it to one solution, and you can move it from one environment to another environment using this Power Platform builder tools. And separate build tasks are available for the finance and operation applications using this LFS. It was only for the Dynamics 365 CE and the Power Platform things. And this builder tools are available at no cost. However, a valid subscription to the Azure DevOps is required to utilize the builder tools. That is more than enough actually. And if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your mic and ask your questions to me. And once again, thank you so much for attending this, and thanks all the organizers for having me here and providing me this wonderful opportunity. And once again, I'm flashing all my contact details in the screen. So feel free to reach out to me if you are facing any issues related to the ALM for the Power Platform or CI/CD for Dynamics 365 CE. And here is my blog URL. Over there, I have written a couple of articles regarding the CI/CD and the ALM for the Power Platform. And feel free to give a connection to me in the LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is there and email is there. Feel free to reach out to me. Thanks once again.
Dharani, that was awesome. Thank you so much. From Bill there again, amazing stuff. Dharani, thanks for sharing. Thanks so much in the one session. Overwhelming. Absolutely loved it. And I think, it's a really important topic, as I was saying at the beginning. So it's been fantastic to see all of that in the one session. I'll just share my screen again. 1 second. So, oh, right, I'm on the sponsor slide. Yes, so thank you so much for being part of today's session, Dharani. It's really important for us to get a diverse range of topics and speakers on these sessions, and I think we've really achieved that today. So one of the things that I always like to say is about becoming a sponsor. We have started the Patreon program, so if you would like to sponsor this user group and put your own business messages up here, we're always looking for people to help out. One thing that is worth mentioning is that we have moved, and hopefully you've all seen this on our messaging, so that the new user group is here on the Microsoft's own site. So if you go to the Power Platform community and go to user groups, you'll find the Cambridge Power Platform user group has moved in there. Please do come along and sign up and support the group. And thank you so much for attending today or watching this video on YouTube afterwards. Again, we hope to provide some really useful content from people that are experts in, users of, and businesses engaging with the Power Platform as an entirety. So next time we think will be July 2021. We look forward to seeing you then. We'll be raising a call for speakers as soon as we can, as long as we've got the date booked in the diary. Please do submit a session. Come along, talk to us, share with us, and hopefully soon, maybe not the next event, but maybe the one after, we'll even get to network a little bit and see each other. Wouldn't that be nice? So again, thank you so much for attending the day, and thank you so much for watching this stuff on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you next time.